This is the story of how getting fired became the best business deal of my life. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed. You'll want to hear how this ends. I sat frozen in Director Marshall's corner office, the leather chair cold beneath me. My manager Vanessa perched beside her desk, wearing this twisted little smile, the kind that said she'd been waiting for this moment. My chest tightened. This wasn't a check-in. This was an execution. My coworker Bailey had warned me 3 weeks ago that something was brewing, but I'd brushed it off. Now, staring at the stack of printed reports between us, I knew she'd been right. The air felt thick, suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat. Director Marshall slid a spreadsheet across the polished wood. "We're 5 months in, Elena. Your target was 90 videos. Her finger tapped the number circled in red. You've delivered 32. My throat went dry. "But the engagement metrics," I started, voice shaking slightly. "Our channel views jumped 1,200%. I've been working alone, 70-hour weeks, using my own equipment." Marshall cut me off with a raised hand. "Numbers are numbers, Elena. We have obligations to meet." Vanessa nodded enthusiastically beside her, that smile never fading. I turned to Vanessa, anger flaring hot in my chest. "You told me to prioritize quality," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. 2 months ago, you specifically said not to rush them. You said if the content was strong, the quantity target was flexible. You said quality over quantity. Those were your exact words. Vanessa tilted her head, her smile softening into something that looked almost kind. Almost. "I said to do your best, Elena. We all have performance standards. I can't keep covering for you when you miss targets this badly." The betrayal hit like ice water. "Covering for me?" I repeated. "Vanessa, I've won 2 industry awards this quarter. Our videos are being used as case studies in marketing programs. The university president personally emailed me last month, thanking me for the rebrand work." Vanessa's smile tightened. "Yes, and those achievements are noted. But none of that changes the fact that you signed a performance agreement with specific deliverables. You're not meeting them." Marshall nodded slowly, like she was being so reasonable, so fair. "So what happens now?" I asked, already knowing but needing to hear it anyway. "How exactly are you planning to produce 90 videos by year-end?" Vanessa let out a sharp little laugh, not even trying to hide her satisfaction. "We'll be bringing in a professional production company to complete the project. That's already being arranged." Marshall nodded. "Vanessa has identified several qualified vendors. The transition will happen immediately." My hands clenched in my lap. They'd already planned my replacement. They'd been planning it for weeks, maybe months. I walked back through the open office in a daze, every eye tracking me. Bailey caught my gaze from her desk and pressed her palm to her forehead, the exact same gesture she'd made months ago when I'd casually mentioned that Vanessa had seen me vaping outside during lunch. "Oh no, Elena," she'd whispered that day, pulling me into the supply closet. "Vanessa's militant about that stuff? She lost her sister to lung cancer. She'll never forgive you." I'd laughed it off then, not laughing now. That one stupid moment had signed my death warrant. Back at my desk, memories flooded in. 3 months ago, Vanessa had denied my request for a junior assistant, even though the workload had tripled. "Budget constraints," she'd said, while approving a $15,000 consultant for a 2-day workshop on innovative thinking. 2 months ago, she'd rejected my equipment requisition for a proper microphone and lighting kit. "Use what you have," she'd said, then bought herself a $1,000 ergonomic chair. Last month, she'd taken credit for my viral video campaign in a presentation to the board. I'd watched her do it, standing in the back of the room. I started packing my personal hard drives and camera lenses into a cardboard box someone had left by the printer. Bailey appeared beside me, her voice barely a whisper. "Elena, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you sooner." I shook my head. "It wouldn't have mattered." She bit her lip. "There's something else you should know. Remember when you got food poisoning last month and missed that Friday meeting?" I nodded. "Vanessa told everyone you were hungover. She said you had a drinking problem. I heard her say it to Marshall." My blood went cold. "What?" Bailey looked miserable. "And remember when your grandmother died and you took 3 days of bereavement leave?" I nodded slowly, my stomach churning. "Vanessa marked you down as taking excessive personal time in your quarterly review. She coded it as a pattern of unreliability. Elena, she's been building a case against you for months. Every sick day, every doctor's appointment, every time you left at 6 instead of 8. She documented all of it. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just about the vaping. This was systematic. I drove home on autopilot, my mind replaying everything. The time Vanessa had scheduled mandatory team meetings at 7 in the morning, knowing I took the bus and couldn't get there before 8. The way she'd CC'd Marshall on every single email where I asked for clarification, making me look incompetent. How she'd changed project deadlines without telling me, then acted disappointed when I missed them. The week she'd given my parking spot to an intern. First come, first served, she'd said, even though I'd had that spot for 2 years. Inside my apartment, I dumped the box by the door and went straight for my laptop. My hands were shaking as I opened the VPN. Please still work. Please. The university server loaded slowly, that ancient interface I'd complained about 100 times. I navigated to the shared marketing drive. There it was, production vendors master.xlsx. My entire contact list, my relationships, my work. And somehow, miraculously, my access hadn't been revoked yet. They'd been so eager to get rid of me, they'd forgotten about the technical details. I downloaded the file and opened it with my heart hammering against my ribs. 32 entries. Every trusted production house I'd worked with over 3 years. Phone numbers, email addresses, rate sheets, notes about their specialties and reliability. This database had taken me a year to build. I'd attended industry events, made cold calls, negotiated rates, built genuine relationships. Vanessa didn't know any of these people. She'd never been to a single production meeting. She thought grip was something you did with your hands, and now she was going to use my work to replace me. I took one long, steadying breath. Then I started deleting. Row after row disappeared. I changed phone numbers to random digits. I switched email domains to dead addresses. I altered contact names to people who'd left the industry. I mixed up specialties, listed animation studios as live-action crews, documentary producers as commercial houses. Slowly, methodically, I dismantled everything I'd built. My hands didn't shake anymore. They moved with purpose. If Vanessa wanted to play dirty, I'd show her what dirty actually looked like. When I finished, one entry remained. Skyward Productions. I changed the contact name to my friend Marcus, a junior editor who mostly ran errands and organized equipment. Then I changed his title. Marcus Ortega, Executive Creative Producer. I added a fake phone number that would ring directly to Marcus's personal cell. I modified the rate sheet to show premium pricing, not outrageous, but definitely at the high end of market rates. Marcus was hungry. Marcus was talented. And Marcus owed me. I'd recommended him for that job 2 years ago when he was desperate. I saved the file, uploaded it back to the server, and cleared my browser history. Then I picked up my phone. Marcus, how would you like to land a contract worth more than your annual salary? Silence stretched on the other end. Elena, what's going on? Are you okay? His voice was cautious. I laid it out plainly. They fired me over a technicality because my manager hates vapors and spent months building a case against me. Now they're scrambling to find a production company. I can hand you everything you need to win this pitch. All I want is a 15% finder's fee, documented officially. More silence. Then, Elena, are you sure about this? I laughed, a bitter sound. Marcus, they denied me an assistant while I was drowning in work. They rejected basic equipment requests while spending thousands on useless consultants. My manager took credit for my work and spread rumors about me having a drinking problem. She documented every sick day like I was a criminal. I'm sure. Marcus exhaled slowly. Okay, I need to talk to my boss. Give me 20 minutes. I hung up and stared at my apartment walls, feeling something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly, but purpose. 20 minutes later, Marcus called back, his words tumbling out fast. Elena, I just got off the phone with our operations director. If this is really a 6-month contract for 50-plus videos, 15% is standard industry rate for referrals. He's drafting the finder's fee agreement right now. Wants it signed before we proceed. He's actually excited about this. He needs everything you've got on this client. I smiled for the first time all day. Give me 24 hours. I'll send you a complete playbook. Marcus, I'm gonna make you look like the smartest person they've ever met. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with coffee and fury as fuel, creating a 20-page tactical document. I detailed Director Marshall's obsession with cohesive brand storytelling and her tendency to approve anything framed as strategic alignment. I listed every buzzword Vanessa loved: synergistic, dynamic, audience-centric, paradigm-shifting. I included the university's exact brand guidelines, color codes, and logo specifications. I wrote sample pitch phrases that would sound like I'd read their minds. I even noted that Vanessa loved being called visionary, and that Marshall responded well to sports metaphors. I included everything I knew about their decision-making process. Marshall liked to see 3 options, and always chose the middle one. Vanessa needed to feel like she'd contributed to the creative direction. Throw her a few softball questions and let her refine your ideas. The university president loved anything that made the school look innovative and forward-thinking. I wrote out a sample timeline, a proposed meeting structure, and even suggested what to wear. Business casual, nothing too flashy. Use this script, I typed at the end. They'll think you're telepathic. 3 days later, my phone rang while I was buying groceries. Elena. Marcus's voice was breathless, excited. We just left the meeting. It was surreal. We followed your playbook word for word, and Vanessa's face went white. She kept interrupting, saying, "How do you know that?" And, "That's exactly what we need." At one point, she asked if we'd worked with the university before. Marshall looked relieved for the first time since I met her. "They're signing the contract tomorrow. Elena, they didn't even negotiate. They just accepted everything." I stood in the cereal aisle, gripping my phone, barely breathing. "How much?" Marcus paused. "Elena, we quoted high, really high. My operations director said to test their desperation, so we went premium on everything. They didn't even blink." He sent me the proposal while I was still on the phone. I opened the PDF and my vision blurred. The rate for a single video was nearly 4 times my monthly salary. They'd quoted for a 15-person crew, professional equipment rental, studio time, post-production, licensing fees, and revision rounds for every 5-minute video. The total for 50 videos came to just over 8 months of work at a rate that made my stomach flip. The grand total exceeded 130 times my old monthly paycheck. I did the math 3 times, certain I was reading it wrong. "Marcus," I said slowly, "this is more than they paid me in 3 years." He laughed. "Yeah. My boss says they must have serious money if they're not negotiating. Elena, your 15% is going to be substantial." We hung up and I abandoned my grocery cart and walked outside, needing air. 2 weeks later, I was sorting through my apartment, deciding what to keep and what to donate, when my banking app notification chimed. I opened it absently, then sat down hard on my couch. The first finder's fee payment had arrived, 15% of Skyward's initial deposit. That single transfer was more than 4 months of my old salary. I stared at the number until my eyes watered. It was real. This was actually happening. All those months of Vanessa's petty cruelties, all those documented sick days, all that stolen credit, it had led to this. Bailey sent me an email with the subject line, "You need to hear this." I opened it over breakfast. "Elena, you won't believe what's happening here," she wrote. "Vanessa has been walking around like she just won an award, telling everyone she personally found the perfect production partner through her extensive industry network. She showed Director Marshall a thank you email from Skyward calling her a visionary. She's been absolutely unbearable. She's already talking about this being a career-defining moment. She thinks she's getting promoted." I read it twice, smiling wider each time. Then I booked a one-way ticket to Thailand. 4 months passed like a dream. I moved through Southeast Asia, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, then finally settling in a small coastal town in Vietnam. I learned to dive. I took photography workshops. I slept past sunrise for the first time in years. The finder's fee payments arrived like clockwork, direct deposited every 2 weeks. I'd been researching film programs in Europe, quietly building a new future. I'd almost forgotten about Vanessa and Director Marshall and those awful early morning meetings. Almost. Then one morning, my phone rang with Bailey's name flashing on the screen. "Elena, you need to sit down." Bailey's voice was shaking with barely suppressed laughter. "Vanessa, she's gone. Not just fired. Security walked her out this morning while she was crying and yelling. They took her badge, her laptop, everything. Elena, it was brutal. Half the office watched through the glass walls. She was screaming that it wasn't her fault that she'd been set up. Director Marshall just stood there looking like she wanted to disappear. I set down my coffee, my heart suddenly racing. "What happened?" I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral. "The budget exploded," Bailey whispered urgently. The chancellor himself came down from the main campus with the chief financial officer. "Elena, the entire YouTube initiative was only allocated funding equal to 18 months of your old salary. That was the whole budget for 2 years. Vanessa spent more than 12 times that amount. 12 times. The finance department flagged it during quarterly review, and everything unraveled. They found emails, approvals, invoices. She'd been hiding it all." I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from laughing out loud. "How did she hide it that long?" I asked, genuinely curious. Bailey's voice dropped even lower. She approved every single invoice herself without getting Director Marshall's signature. She was so desperate to finish the project and look like a hero that she bypassed all the normal approval chains. She'd been coding the expenses under different budget categories, thinking she'd figure it out later. But Elena, it gets worse. When finance investigated, they found she'd also been padding her own expense reports, charging personal dinners as client meetings. It was a complete mess. "So Vanessa's definitely gone," I said slowly, letting it sink in. "What about Marshall?" Bailey made a noise somewhere between a laugh and a gasp. "Oh, Marshall got destroyed?" The chancellor held a department meeting and tore into her in front of everyone. Said she'd failed basic management oversight, that she was either incompetent or complicit. She's still employed, technically, but she's been totally sidelined. She doesn't make decisions anymore. Someone from central administration is running our department now. Marshall looks like she aged 10 years overnight. I hung up and immediately video called Marcus. He answered from what looked like a private office, grinning. "Let me guess, you heard." I laughed. "Marcus, Bailey says you're basically famous there now." He leaned back in his chair. "Elena, my operations director, promoted me. I'm running my own production team now. 4 people report to me. He thinks I'm some kind of business genius who can read clients' minds. All because Vanessa was too arrogant to keep you, too cheap to hire someone who actually knew production costs, and too stupid to read a contract before signing it." "What happens to the university contract?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. Marcus's grin widened. "That's my favorite part. 2 weeks ago, they tried to cancel, said they wanted to renegotiate terms and scale back. Our legal team pulled out the contract Vanessa signed, ironclad. They're obligated to pay for all 50 videos regardless of whether they use them or how many they actually publish. We finished the last one yesterday. Final payment processed this morning. Elena, they tried everything, claimed breach of contract, said we'd misrepresented our services, threatened legal action, all of it bounced off our contract." My phone buzzed with a banking notification even as he spoke. I opened my banking app with shaking hands. The final finder's fee deposit had cleared. I did the math 3 times to make sure I wasn't misreading the numbers. After taxes and the currency conversion, the total came to just over 16 months of my old salary. I had enough for the film program in London I'd been researching. Enough for professional equipment. Enough for a year of not worrying about rent or food or anything. Enough to never think about Vanessa again. That evening, I walked down to the beach near my rental cottage and watched the sun melt into the ocean. I thought about Vanessa's gleeful smile in that office, about Director Marshall's cold dismissal, about those 7 a.m. meetings I could never attend, about my denied equipment requests and stolen parking spot, about being called unreliable for attending my grandmother's funeral, about the drinking rumors and the documented sick days, about that impossible target of 90 videos they'd used to justify getting rid of me. Every petty cruelty had led me here. I pulled out my vape pen, took a long drag, and raised my water bottle toward the horizon. "To professional production companies," I said quietly, smiling at the waves. "And to doing your research before you burn someone who built your entire vendor database." The ocean had no comment, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Somewhere back in that office, Vanessa was probably updating her resume, explaining to potential employers why she'd been walked out by security. And I was here, watching the sunset, funded by her arrogance. Justice tasted like salt air and freedom. My phone buzzed one more time. An email from Bailey. They're hiring for your old position. The job posting says they need someone who can produce 90 videos in 6 months. The salary is exactly what you were making. Nobody's applying. The whole department knows what happened. Elena, you won. You actually won. I read it twice, then deleted it. I didn't need the reminder. I could feel it in every breath of clean ocean air, in every morning I woke up without an alarm, in every day I spent doing exactly what I wanted. Vanessa had tried to destroy me. Instead, she'd set me free.